Hello everyone, my name is Kitetsu and welcome back to my channel. So in this video I want to take a look at loads of new figures that I haven't shown on my channel before, and some of you may have seen them, but I know a lot of you come to my channel to actually find out all of the latest news for Age of Sigmar. So although these have actually been floating around for about a week by now, some of you probably have not seen them at all. First thing I want to do is say a massive shout out of thanks to two people. The first one is Garro, and I will leave the link in the description of this video to find his Twitter and his Facebook page, but he went to Warhammer Fest at the weekend and he was kind enough to share his images with me so that I could use them in this video. And the other one was David Jennings, who's actually got some really good quality pictures. I mean, like, look at this, but we'll talk about all this in a minute. But yeah, big thank you to both of those, and the pages will be both linked to in the description of the video, so go check those out. I went and asked both of them for permission and they were both happy to do so. But let's get straight into this video and have a look at all of the figures. Just to recap, this is where I've kind of got up to on my channel so far. We've got the Grimghast Reapers, we've got the Lord Executioner over here. This one was called the Guardian of Souls, I believe. The Spirit Torment was the Padlock guy. We've got these Glaive Wraith Stalkers that I initially thought were Undead Skaven, and someone pointed out they almost have more of a horse-like face. And now I look at them, I do actually agree with that. Obviously the Chain Rasp Hordes and the new Knight of Shrouds that's mounted on the horse, and I'm going to have to say it again, gorgeous model. But we haven't heard anything much more about the Cavalry, the Black Coach, and this here I guess could be another Guardian of Souls kind of lamp guy thing, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. I have no idea what this is unless it's some kind of alternate Spirit Torment, and I don't know as well if these are an alternate build of the Grimghast Reapers. But there have been updates to all of this, which I want to talk about in this video, and they were all shown basically at Warhammer Fest. Oh yeah, let's recap the Stormcast as well quickly. We've got these bowmen over here, which are the Castigators, the Evocators, which are these kind of wizards, obviously our Sequitors, which are like the Liberator guys, the Celestar Ballista down here, which is the first piece of Stormcast artillery, and about time too, to be honest, because we've had a Lord-Ordinator who buffs artillery for a faction that doesn't even have artillery. To be honest, we should have just taken that as a sign back then that more Stormcasts were on the way, but most of us were thinking like, this is completely useless, why have they done that? Obviously the penny never dropped. But then we've also got the Lord-Arcanum, who definitely has grown on me, and now I absolutely love it, but at first for some reason I wasn't that keen. The Knight-Incantor down here, and we haven't heard anything out of this at all. But yeah, let's look at some of these new figures. First things first, I know that certain news sites were reporting these images here, and I feel like they kind of missed the point a little bit with their articles, because they didn't talk about all the other goodness that was on show at Warhammer Fest for Age of Sigmar. But basically the rumour is that what you're looking at on the screen now, excluding the Celestar Ballista in the background there, are Shadespire warbands. So we actually saw these guys at the top left here in the Night Haunts reveal trailer, in that image there. But that's pretty much the only thing we've seen of them officially since. But if you also look at these guys here, they're actually in a completely different pose to the more static models we've seen so far. These guys actually look really cool. I love the guy with the crossbow sort of slung over his shoulder, and although this person, excluding the base, looks very similar to the guys we've seen, this one here looks very cool. Why do people think that they are a Shadespire warband? Well, partly because of the scenic bases, and also because of the fact that they're in a completely different pose, and there's 3 of them, well, including this Gryph-hound, that makes 4, which is the perfect size for a Shadespire warband. Similarly, if you look at these Banshee-like things, they've all got very scenic bases as well, so, you know, they stand out, but who knows. Also, look at the crew for the Celestar Ballista in the background there. They have completely different poses and heads, and they're holding different things to the ones we've seen so far, so that's a pretty nice touch too. I think I actually mentioned in the Stormcast video that I was really hoping that there would be at least a little bit of variation in the crew members, because otherwise it would get very repetitive and samey, like buying more than one box. So it looks like they've already thought of that, which is great. We also got a good look at the Black Coach, and I know we've already seen this, so it's nothing new and exciting, but at the same time it does give us a sense of scale. Something maybe a bit more interesting is the fact that we got another closer up look of the Cavalry, and like in the video we've seen so far, there are 2 of them. them. I would be very surprised if these are sold in boxes of 2. I would expect more like 5 or something like that, but it's actually quite interesting that these have very scenic bases too, and I'm wondering if maybe Games Workshop are actually going to release some scenic bases, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that front. This picture here I've just included as a kind of scale reference for the new black coach, because it shows you that it's actually pretty massive. It does look incredible, and I think it's going to make a very good centerpiece for the army. And also, if you look closely, the rumoured Shadespire warband are down there too. But yeah, then we've got these here, and these are quite interesting because they look a lot like the Grimghast Reapers. They've got these same studded hoods and the bodies with the kind of draped clothes over them, but instead of their sickles, they're all armed with swords, which is pretty cool. I'm a big fan of the sickles, obviously, because it gives them the whole Reaper look, but they definitely look cool with the swords too. And notice how they've actually got these armoured masks as well, so they do look quite different. Again, it's another way to give an awful lot of variety to your models on the board, which is something that can be lacking from some of these death armies. You know, the Night Haunts at first had 4 models in their entire range, and that to me is just bland. Like, I don't want that, I want variety. So that's quite cool that it's going to be a dual build kit. Now, if you remember the Lord Executioner, it looks like there's going to be at least another version of this as well, because this guy here that we've seen already, and I was worried about this one because of that kind of stress point, he has the hangman's noose on his back, the gallows. There's these 2 I spotted at Warhammer Fest from the images I've been sent, however, that are very different because their axes are up in the air, which immediately solves the issue of being fragile, and neither of these have the gallows on their back. They're both obviously based off of this model, but I would be shocked if they're not. But instead of the gallows, we've got the axe up in the air with kind of spirit stuff coming off them, and it looks like this is going to be a dual build kit here too, because we've got an hourglass there, whereas here we've got like spirit energy kind of coming out. Again, it's not like a massive change, but at least it ups the variety. I'm wondering if this one here is perhaps going to be part of the rumoured starter set, whereas these 2 could be separate, because I do think these look a little bit better and a bit more intricate. I just included this image because it actually lets you see the 2 together, but they definitely seem to be Lord Executioners to me. Also, look, doesn't that look just like my banner on my YouTube page? Heavy metal inspired by Kitetsu. Okay, so next let's talk about the Guardian of Souls. So if you look at the picture on the right here in the background, this is basically the one we've seen. However, there was also this on display on the left here at Warhammer Fest 2. And I'm assuming this is from the same kit, because we've got this arm in the air for both of them, and then an arm going downwards on both of them. But again, this one on the left is very much more detailed, and it kind of looks more intricate to me, like the folds of the fabric and all of that. There seems to be more detail on it. So again, it could be that the one on the right is more likely to be a starter one, and the one on the left could be a separate kit, but I have no idea. Perhaps it could be that they're both from the same kit, and you can just build them in a variety of ways. I definitely prefer the attachment to the base on this one. It looks a bit more secure and just more detailed, but I do love this kind of sand timer or whatever that's supposed to be. That does look very cool. But from the video where these were announced, there was actually this version here too. So either there's 3 completely different versions, or perhaps you can build it in different ways. One thing I have just noticed literally right now that is quite interesting is the fact that this one here and this one are much more similar to each other than they are to this one, and they both have a candle on their helmet. Obviously the helmet is different anyway, but I'm wondering if they're somehow representing very different figures. Who knows? I guess we'll have to wait and see, but nevertheless, really nice model. Right, let's take a look at some Stormcast as well. These guys look very cool, and I hadn't seen these at all. They look awesome, and I think they're really getting to the part where they are nailing the aesthetic of the Stormcast faces without helmets. Something I was going to say earlier in the video is the fact that with the Shadespire warband that came out for Stormcast Eternals, the original one from the starter set, in fact, let's get that up. Here we go. I did not like the sculpt of this guy's face. It was even worse when you looked at the artwork for it. Like, I just did not take to that model for some reason. But all of the new models that are coming out just seem to look so much more interesting, and I know that lots of people aren't that interested in Shadespire as a game. Some people absolutely love it, but one thing I do love is the fact that the models you get represent kind of standard models, but in a slightly different pose. And for example, like we get a female Stormcast here, and if you bought the starter set for Age of Sigmar like I did, I don't have one of these Gran Hammers, so again, it's a great way to just add one of those to a unit and make them look more interesting. But that's getting off topic. What I was really trying to talk about is I think they are definitely improving the faces for the Stormcast. This guy on the left here, we've actually got a picture of him fully painted from Warhammer Fest, and I think that looks absolutely stunning. It's actually getting to the point where I want more models with the helmets off because they're actually getting the sculpts right now, or maybe that's just my own personal preference. Maybe some of you other guys have loved their sculpts already, but I just think they look much better now. We don't actually know what this guy is yet. I'm sure some of you Stormcast fans will have much better predictions than I do that you can leave down below, but he looks absolutely amazing. Next, we've got the guy on the right, and the only thing I can think is that he is actually, oh, there we go, there he is painted up. The only thing I can think is that he is actually some sort of Lord-Ordinator. If you look at the Lord-Ordinator model, he's got these same sort of chains draped across here attaching to this. Here's the chains. In fact, it's actually clearer if you look at this one. You've got two sort of sigils attached to the shoulder with the chains, and then you've got this down here and that distinguishable fabric. And with that icon behind his neck, it's very similar to what we've got here. There's the icon, there's the two sigils with the two chains, and that thing with this fabric. You know, it looks very similar. And the hammer. Speaking of hammers as well, I like the fact that the Lord-Ordinators represent one of the key themes of the Stormcast, and that's that the hammer can destroy and it can create, so it's a big symbol of what Sigmar's all about. But yeah, anyway. Next, we've got a shot of these three figures here together. We've obviously got our Knight-Incantor on the left there, and I've got a better picture of her here. Very cool model. I think they've maybe overpainted the face a little bit because it's kind of made her look a bit old and haggard, but nice model anyway. But I'm actually quite interested in this banner guy here on the right. At first I thought he's like a Lord Relictor, but obviously they have the trademark skull helmets, so it's definitely not one of those. They never actually released one of these outside of the starter set, which I think they really should have, but who knows. It's obviously going to be some sort of sacrosanct unique sculpt. But yeah, here we go. Here we get a better picture of him. He's obviously reading out of a book and summoning something out of his staff. Maybe he's trapping spirits within it, or maybe he's releasing them. Probably more likely he's trapping them, but yeah, I do really like this model. Now, I know we've seen this one officially, that's off the Warhammer community site, but we got some better looks at this particular Sequitor Prime as well. This particular one here was actually a super size model, but they never actually showed the standard size one, so I was thinking, are they actually going to have models this good in the sort of scale that we want? And the answer is absolutely yes. They've also got a picture of her painted up in a squad, and something else you'll notice is again the variety of different heads and haircuts and styles. But not only that, the fact that these are armed with swords. Obviously most of them are armed with the maces by default, which is meant to represent the anvil of apotheosis, if I'm saying that right. Literally the anvil that the Stormcast are forged on. But it's nice to know you can take them with swords as well. Like, I really like the swords on Stormcast. I've never built that option, so it would be fun to use these as an excuse to do so. Next, we've just got this picture here showing some more of the Sequitors, and again the different faces and the unmasked Stormcast that we're likely to find in these boxes. Like, the more customization options the better, basically. Then the very last things to look at really are these Evocators, and these ones we have seen. Like, I'm pretty sure these are the exact ones that were on the Warhammer community website, but they also showed this unit here, and they're actually subtly quite different because they're holding different weapons. Like, these staffs are very much more basic and simple, and they look a little bit more like something out of a cartoon or a fairy tale or something like that. It's like something you'd imagine to be the Wicked Witch's staff in Sleeping Beauty or something like that. Whereas these ones here are very much more detailed and intricate, and the poses are far more interesting. I complained about the pose of this guy, and these two aren't so bad, but I'm not that keen on this one here, the Prime. Obviously these are holding the one-handed weapon options, whereas these guys here have got the two-handed weapons. But yeah, they definitely look more interesting. They've definitely got different poses, and this one again has not got a helmet on. And there's just another view of them from David Jennings, but again, it just makes me more interested in the unit knowing that there's different build options and different poses. But yeah, basically that is all of the models that we've seen so far. So let me know your thoughts down below. I'm particularly keen on this one here, but let me know what your opinions are. What are your hopes for these different factions? Have you got any thoughts that I haven't considered? Do you think these are Shadespire warbands, and does that interest you? And yeah, otherwise I'm going to leave this video here, but thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, don't forget to subscribe, hit that little bell icon if you are new, and yeah, leave a comment down below so that I can hear your opinions. And otherwise, I will see you really soon.